Minister.
With your permission, Mr Speaker, I will answer questions 3 and 4 together. Far from lowering standards, the UK already exceeds the EU minimum requirements in several areas, including on workers' rights and environmental targets. We will continue in this vein with an independent trade policy and in doing so unleash the enormous potential of the UK and Welsh economies.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Over 60% of Welsh exports are destined for the EU, dominated by key industries vulnerable to divergence-related trade barriers, agriculture, machinery and transport equipment, to name but two. So instead of actively trying to circumvent the Prime Minister's own withdrawal agreement, why isn't the Government pursuing the regulatory alignment that is crucial for Welsh businesses and exporters?
Well, Mr Speaker, we of course voted to leave the European Union, and that meant voting to leave the customs union and voting to leave the single market. And I'm quite surprised at the question from the honourable gentleman, because I would have thought that he would be the first to agree with me that a nation which leaves a union will want full control over its regulatory and trade policy. This is a matter of principle which I would have expected the honourable gentleman and his colleagues to be in full agreement with.
Speaker, I share the Minister's enthusiasm that we can now exceed regulations, better regulations set by the EU. But does my right honourable friend agree with me that the Government's agenda is proof that our commitment to maintaining the existing high standards that are independent of EU law, and that it's not only businesses that could benefit from this regulatory divergence?
Well, I fully agree with my right honourable friend, and I think that we will be in agreement that outside of the European Union we are looking forward to exercising the freedom to set some of the highest standards in the world on animal welfare, health and safety and workers' rights, and thus make Britain one of the best places in the world in which to live, work and invest.
Nick Thomas-Symonds.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tomorrow the Government will publish its position on the EU trade negotiations. This is of particular importance to the automotive sector in Wales. And just to give the Minister an example, if there were to be 5% tariffs on import exports and 2.5% on components, it could add £1,000 to the cost of production on a car and put jobs at risk. So will the Minister confirm the Government is seeking tariff-free access for the automotive sector of the single market, and that if that is not obtained, the Government will have a contingency plan in place to support jobs in this sector in Wales?
Well, Mr Speaker, the honourable gentleman is absolutely right to raise the importance of the automotive sector to South Wales, and he's correct in saying that the Government is seeking a full free trade arrangement that will allow full access towards the European market. And quite clearly, if for any reason at all the European Union don't realise that it's in their interest, given that they export more in the way of cars and automotive parts than we do to them, then clearly, whilst I can't absolutely say what will happen, it will be in the forefront of my mind and the mind of all my colleagues that we will want to support the automotive industry in South Wales.
Donald J. Warden.
Number 5, sir.
Mr Speaker, earlier this week we announced 2,000 extra weekday seats on cross-country trains between Cardiff and the Midlands. We've already reduced journey times by 40 minutes on the Great Western Main Line between Swansea and London, and connectivity to North Wales will benefit from the introduction of HS2, which will shorten journey times and drive economic growth throughout the region.
I thank my honourable friend for that answer, and as well as rail links, not just the ones he says, but also the offshoots from the Great Western Railway to Guildford and Gatwick, will he agree that to unleash Wales's potential, it would be critical to improve links between the M3 and M4, which the Transport for the South East body has recently recommended?
Mr Speaker, I think the honourable gentleman is absolutely right to draw attention to the importance of the road network, and in particular the M4, in terms of increasing economic productivity in Wales. And I very much hope that honourable members on the other side of the House will be aware of the importance of the M4 and perhaps encourage the Welsh Labour Government to accept the borrowing that has been made available to them to build the M4 Relief Road in South Wales.
Kevin Brannan.
Mr Speaker, the Western Rail link to Heathrow would really help people travelling from Heathrow to South Wales. It could get passengers from Reading to Heathrow in less than 30 minutes, but progress has been badly delayed. When will the construction work on the line properly begin?
Mr. Speaker, I'm unable to say when exactly it will begin, but I can assure the honourable member that it is our policy to make sure it begins, and I fully recognise the importance of those links between Heathrow and Reading, and indeed for the rail network across the whole of Wales, which has will see £1.5 billion spent on it during Control Period 6, and overall, of course, the honourable gentleman will welcome the fact that we are currently making the biggest investment to rail infrastructure in the country since the Victorian times.
Speak to Bill.
Question 6, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a reserved matter and it's currently not government policy. I have no plans to discuss this with the Welsh Government.
Speak to Bill.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, he needs to change his mind. Yeah. Wales has one of the lowest numbers of bank holidays in the whole of Europe. Some countries in Europe have twice the number. What have you got against giving workers in Wales an extra day off?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I suppose this was inevitable in a way. But my experience of businesses and residents in Wales is very simple. They have an exciting future. They are keen to get on with the new opportunities which face them. They do not either request nor want extra opportunities to reminisce about the past.
John Speller.
Mr. Speaker.
Minister, Secretary of State. 7. Somebody just answer. Question 7, John Speller.
Question 7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Apologies for the novice performance from the front bench. Now is an excellent opportunity for public bodies and government departments such as the MOD and NH to buy British goods, products and services. Projects like the £500 million F-35 repair programme in North Wales and 2 million tonnes of steel needed for HS2 have the potential to level up regions and strengthen the Union.
But the Minister's colleague, just in an answer a few minutes ago, was extolling the importance of the automotive industry to Wales. Yet if you look at Welsh police forces, they are buying very heavily from France and Germany. Given that we've come out of the European Union, shouldn't we be taking that opportunity in those vehicles, but right the way across public procurement, to be supporting British jobs and British workers?
I'm sorry, I can completely agree with the right honourable gentleman, and I think that opportunity is now simpler, given that we've left the European Union, and our job here and our job with Welsh Government is to make sure that those procurement rules absolutely reflect the fantastic products that Wales has to offer.
David Jones.
Mr. Speaker, it's a frequent complaint from Welsh construction and civil engineering firms that EU procurement regulations effectively preclude them from bidding for contracts in Wales. Can my right honourable friend confirm that when we have completed the transitional process, everything possible will be done to ensure that Welsh firms do have the chance to bid for those contracts?
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. I couldn't agree with my right honourable friend more. That's one of the great benefits of leaving the European Union.
No. Jessica Morgan.
Mr. Speaker, if we want to maximise the benefits of HS2 for Wales, which needs around 3 million tonnes of steel and new high-speed trains, will the Secretary of State lobby the DfT to procure Welsh steel and UK steel and trains from CAF in Newport for the project?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that will definitely be an objective of the UK Government. As the Honourable Lady knows, we take the future of the steel industry in Wales extremely seriously, and I want to make sure that every opportunity that industry has to contribute to UK infrastructure projects is taken.
Faye Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Crickhowell in my constituency was badly affected by last week's floods. We have a lot of small businesses struggling to get back on their feet. As well as public bodies, will the Minister join me in urging all consumers to buy British and buy local?
Yeah. I know the Honourable Lady's constituency was particularly hard hit by recent weather events, and I think her recognition of that is to be commended. And I also completely agree that everything we need to do as a UK government, I keep making this point, in collaboration with our colleagues in Cardiff, will deliver the sort of result that she's looking for.
Ben Lake.
Speaker, we know that for every £1 spent with a small or medium-sized enterprise, 63 pence is re-spent in the local area, compared to some 40 pence in every £1 spent with a larger chain or business. So what steps will the government take to enable public bodies in Wales to buy more local goods, products and services in the future?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Part of the problem in the past has been the restrictions imposed on us because of our relationship with Europe. Now those terms will be changed. It will free up the opportunity for UK Government and Welsh Government to make sure that procurement rules are changed in order to unpick the problems that he's referred to.
Miller.
Question 8, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I've already held constructive discussions with Welsh Government ministers on various issues, including city and regional growth deals, which have the potential to create jobs and economic growth in Wales and strengthen cross-border working to benefit both sides of the border.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of the residents of Aberconwy and indeed across North Wales rely on good road and rail links along the North Wales coast. Does the Minister recognise the importance of that east-west axis and the connections it offers into England for contact with their families, public services work, and, dare I say it, even the crew hub as part of HS2?
Mr. Speaker, we certainly recognise the importance of those east-west links, both in North Wales and in South Wales, and we will be recognising that through the improvements to the rail and road infrastructure and also through the growth deals. I recently had a chance to see cross-border working in action when Dŵr Cymru were taking water in from English counties in order to ensure that the fresh water continued to run in Monmouth after the floods. And I pay great tribute to them, but I can assure the honourable gentleman that we will recognise the importance and benefits of cross-border working because we are a unionist party.
Chris Evans.
As the Secretary of State will know, Henry VII landed next door to his constituency and grew up in the Minister's constituency, Raglan Castle. He also then gained the crown at Bosworth Field. Has he thought about promoting the history of our modern royal family by creating a Henry VII trail which brought about the Tudor dynasty?
Mr. Speaker, I think that's an excellent and an interesting idea. I know that the honourable gentleman is an expert on sporting history and the contribution that boxing has made in Wales. I hadn't realised he was also interested in Tudor history, and I look forward to discussing that with him outside of this chamber.
Nick Williams.
Mr. Speaker, can my honourable friend, I know he recognised the east-west links between North and South Wales in England, but also Mid-Wales, the Cambrian line, Shrewsbury to Aberystwyth line, needs a signal upgrade. Will my honourable friend convene a meeting with myself and interested parties?
Mr. Speaker, it is always a pleasure to meet with the honourable member for Montgomeryshire. He's done a fantastic job of lobbying for better east-west links in his own constituency, and I shall look forward to hear what he has to say. No doubt the Treasury and Department for Transport will also take a keen interest in that.
Wales took the brunt of the storm last week. Hundreds of people in my constituency lost absolutely everything because they have to make a choice between buying food or paying the insurance bill, and they are completely uninsured. RCT Council alone, just one local authority, is going to have a bill of £30 million. What's the point of a United Kingdom if the United Kingdom will not stand by Wales financially when we really need it?
Mr. Speaker, as my honourable friend has already said, there have been meetings between himself and the First Minister. At the moment, there's no way of knowing exactly what the cost of those floods are going to be, and I know that the Chief Executive of Monmouthshire was unable to tell me, except that it will, of course, run into millions of pounds. We've already moved to ensure that people who receive compensation will not see any impact on benefits. We absolutely stand with Wales, but as the honourable gentleman will appreciate, it would be impossible for us to go marching into Wales and tell the Welsh Government what to do in what is a devolved area. We stand ready. We stand ready to support. We stand ready to support the Welsh Government in any way, but they need to come forward with a set of costs and also to explain exactly how that money will be spent.
Virginia Crosby.
Good night, Mr. Speaker.
I'm proud that this government has recently announced that victims of rape and sexual assault will be helped by a 50% funding boost for specialist support services. This will provide additional funding for the vital services offered at 6 rape support centres across Wales.
Virginia Crosby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I welcome the government announcement, which will go some way to ensuring that more people receive the support and advice that they need to recover. I'm also pleased to hear that 2 of the support centres which will benefit from this funding are both in North Wales. In November last year, the Wales Audit Office reported that victims and survivors of domestic abuse and sexual violence are being let down by inconsistent, complex and short-term service in Wales. Does my right honourable friend agree that we need to be working towards a Wales where no one is turned away?
Can I reassure my honourable friend that an absolutely shared ambition and intention of UK government, and can I also commend her for bringing this to the House's attention? There are few more important issues facing us at the moment.
Gareth Davies.
Mr Speaker, last year thousands of cases of revenge porn were brought forward to the police in Wales, and only a handful of cases went to court because victims don't have the advantage of anonymity and have got to prove malicious intent. Will he ensure he has discussions with the relevant minister on the forthcoming Internet Harm Bill, so women in particular who are subjected to internet porn, basically pornography being thrown out onto the internet without consent, is sorted out properly?
I can absolutely offer that guarantee.
Alan Cairns.
Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. I was fortunate enough to visit St Athan last week, where I met my right honourable friend and military personnel. My officials have been working closely with MOD and Welsh Government officials to secure the future of bases in Wales, and they are making good progress with St Athan.
MOD St Athan has been designated a key element of the defence estate across the United Kingdom, but the Welsh Government are refusing our armed forces' ongoing use of their existing site. Will the Secretary of State press the First Minister of the importance not only of the obvious economic case that they bring to the community, but the role that they will play in the defence of our nation?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I can absolutely offer that guarantee as well. I could go a little bit further than that and actually say that the blockage between MOD and Welsh Government has started to loosen. There does seem to be some progress, and I very much hope that we can achieve the objective that he wants, which is a substantial military footprint at St Athan.
Stephen Doherty.
Mr Speaker, the Secretary of State for Wales is due to meet with the Secretary of State for Transport in the coming weeks, where they will discuss how we can build upon the new superfast rail transport service between South Wales and London and the improved connectivity HS2 will bring to North Wales.
Mr Speaker, of course I'm talking about South Wales, but I'm sure the Minister will welcome the support that the Welsh Labour Government is giving to the St Mellons Parkway project in the east of Cardiff. Will he, in the discussions with the Secretary of State for Transport, ensure that as many cross-border services can stop from GWR, but also potentially competitors?
Mr Speaker, I think the honourable gentleman is making a very important point. I'd be very happy to discuss this with him outside, but I can absolutely assure him of the commitment to rail infrastructure in South Wales as well as in North Wales, which is why we spent an extra £1.5 billion during this control period and laid on thousands of extra seats between